how we've lost 10, one, we only won 1 out of 10. Well, that sounds like a stupid, like
Yeah.
if I went to a casino and I bet 10 times and I only won once, like if I'm a rational human being, that's pretty bad odds. I'm not doing that again. Whereas if I don't know how much of the stuff I'm pushing out into the world, productionizing is working, well, ignorance is bliss.
Hi, my name is Romo Santiago, and I'm the founder of Experimentation. On today's episode, we have Nima Yassini, and he shares his views on the challenges of building a culture of experimentation in agencies as well as with clients. He also speaks of the importance of technology investment and change management in our industry. We hope you enjoy the episode.
Hi, this is Khalil Gulivala. Welcome to another episode of Experimentation. In today's episode, I'm really excited to have Nima Yassini with us. Nima was the CEO and founder of New Republic, a brand UX and digital marketing agency focused on delivering conversion rate optimization strategies that help clients understand their ideal customer and build website experiences that convert. Nima, I'm super excited to have you
Yeah,
today.
thanks for having me on, and thanks for that wonderful intro. I might use it on my LinkedIn.
Amazing, Nima. One of the things that I know, and I was researching you and reading about you, is the fact that you've combined two things. You've combined digital marketing and you've combined sort of experimentation and conversion rate optimization in Australia. Can you talk about the journey of building that agency that kind of took these two things together and combined it under sort of user
Yeah.
experience?
So my background, it's going to show my age. I started in the .com rise in Australia. So we're building websites on CD-ROMs. I'm sure a lot of people listening probably go, "What is a CD-ROM?" Anyway, look it up on Google. And that I kind of evolved in that journey and ended up working in this company that sold banner ads on websites. And then fast forward a bit, and then 2007, I got really interested in user experience design, and that was really fascinating to me. I really love the idea of understanding why people behave the way they do, how journeys could be designed better. Because in the old days, engineers would build websites and trying to convince people that no, you got to think from a user's perspective, and engineers think from a coding perspective, and the internet wasn't as friendly as it is today. And so that really fascinated me, and so I got into that space. And then you fast forward, I went to London, came back, got introduced to experimentation, came back and started an agency. And I started an agency as a creative agency. And it was not only until my partner came in and we kind of refounded the agency did we start, we went back to our heartland, moved away from creative services, went back to our heartland of user experience design. And then she and I started thinking about, how do you differentiate in UX? And I can remember we were working with a big bank, and the client said, I want to put the logo on the right hand side. So, logos are traditionally top left hand corner. They used to take you to the home. But anyway, all of a sudden, and we were like, why? And it's just like, oh, I just like it. And, that one conversation was this kind of precipice where I was like, I am so fed up with this industry, because it doesn't matter how much experience you have. If the client wants something, that's it. You're doing it, regardless of it's good practice or bad practice. And so I just started getting quite passionate about the subject. And all of a sudden, I started throwing my toys out of the pram. And then my partner, who's far more rational than I am, came back and said, find another way to manage these conversations. And so it was at the same time that big data was coming on board, and we talked about data lakes. And I kind of knelt back into experimentation based on the work I was doing in London with HSBC. And then I thought, hey, why not merge these two worlds together? And what was really unique for us was a lot of the people doing conversion rate optimization or experimentation in those times were more media led companies. They were looking to reduce the cost per lead, convert more on the landing page. And we were like, this could be quite different, because we're looking at websites more holistically from a journey perspective, big complex journeys. How do we optimize those journeys? And so that became our kind of integration point. And to be honest, it was really around not wanting to fight with clients, but having a way of nullifying subjectivity of design using data to have that conversation. So it allowed us to be competitive and be evolving our product offering, but at the same time helped us evolve into something that becomes less about the subjectivity of what a client wants to what is the data and the customer telling us, bringing the customer truly into the design process. And
Mhm.
that was the journey that, without knowing it, that one decision, that integration point, changed everything. Changed the way we looked at user experience design, changed the way we were as a business, changed our proposition. Changed our team structures. It changed absolutely everything in our business for the better. I mean, we ended up, we went from working with companies you probably wouldn't know of to the biggest brands locally and globally. So it was a change we didn't expect, but when we did embrace it, completely changed the way we looked at the world and approached our work, and it changed me as a designer and as a UX strategist as well, and the way I thought about my work.
This is Romo Santiago from Experiment Nation. Every week, we share interviews with and conference sessions by our favorite conversion rate optimizers from around the world. So if you like this video, smash that like button and consider subscribing. It helps us a bunch. Now back to the episode.
Amazing, Nima. And just one thing there, I want to dig into, and
Right.
it was sort of the notion you said. But we had this client who kind of said, who said they wanted to put the logo in the top right corner. So what I imagine is, though, a lot of other agencies, if they were just focused on creating a website, they would just say, yeah, whatever, the client wants this,
Yeah.
let's put it up there. But my sense is the fact that because you're focused on experimentation and CRO, is it kind of notion where you're pushing back on data because you have sort of targets, because it's not just the visual, it's actually experimentation, it's actually moving the needle.
Well,
So whenever you're
technically,
pushing back
this
on
is
a
the problem, mate.
please.
Conversion rate optimization moves the needle. Experimentation doesn't. It's not built to, and
Okay.
this is the we talk about this. Our category loves the navel grace, and we love talking about the subjectivity of words, right? But fundamentally, conversion rate optimization moves needles. Its measure is a conversion outcome. So you can very directly go, it sold more, it didn't. Whereas experimentation is a learning platform. It's really trying to understand what is a better way to do something. So for example, if I'm trying to circumvent putting engineering hours into a piece of work, moving the needle might not be, it's proving that what I've got now is actually better than what I could be doing, and so not wasting all that operational hours. Which what is an a that is exactly the definition of an A/B test: is what I'm doing now is better than what it could be, right? And so there's an operational efficiency. If you're looking for, we had a retailer who was trying to reduce the number of return rates because it was costing them a bundle during COVID, and so that was more of a cost savings rather than a ROI, increasing. So it's much broader, and I feel like the world is going to move into those two. You're either looking to move a revenue needle, or you're looking for operational and insights. And so we're using the fundamental layer of A/B testing, but we're looking at the problem in different ways and measuring in different ways. If that makes sense.
Okay. And see, and if you think of sort of the two things, do you imagine the two different departments looking at those? Because I imagine for like a conversion rate optimization, it's probably marketing and sales or e-commerce, but let's say operational efficiencies might be more
Well,
the
this is why we talk about
might be
culture
more
of
the
experimentation,
logistics.
right? Our whole category talks about it because it
Mm,
is. It's a tool that everyone should have in their suite and should be able to use. Not one department or one person. It's a tool that, and you look at all these organizations that talk about culture, and you go to these centers of excellence structures where everyone's testing, and you got a group who's just managing what everyone's doing. But ideally, um, yeah, it should be something that everyone does. It's not a department or a person, and these are all tools. You use different tools at different times
mm.
to create different outcomes. They're just tools.
Yeah, so maybe on that point, Nima, about sort of the culture of
Yeah.
experimentation, right? And here you've talked about how, like, in terms of like agencies are kind of like almost like a third party. They're kind of doing that work on their side. But can you talk about maybe their journey of sort of, there's an agency that may have its own sort of culture of
Mm.
experimentation versus a company that who's hired
Yeah,
them. Like how did that culture of experimentation go from
yeah,
one to
this
the
is
other?
something I've been, since I've sold the business and now left the business I sold to. It's something I can't stop thinking about. Is this idea of a culture of experimentation is really around making yourself as the service provider, whether you're a consultancy or an agency, whatever you want to call yourself. Technically, you're trying to make yourself redundant because you're trying to infuse that culture into your client's business. And ideally, what you're doing is helping them bring it in-house. Technically, you're doing yourself out of a job, right? And that doesn't really mesh well with an agency model or a consultancy model where you're selling resource time. And fundamentally, the product of an agency or consultancy is skilled labor, very high skilled, specialized, capable labor. So trying to sell in a culture of experimentation, just it doesn't bode well with the future of trying to grow your revenues as an agency owner or a consultancy owner. So I think the idea around how building a culture of experimentation, you can't get agencies to do it. And on the back of that, clients on their own can't do it because they've got a way of working. They've got a BAU to and I mean our business went through a massive change program to adopt a culture of experimentation. Little did we know we were going to do it, but we ended up moving down that pathway. Like the way you cook a lobster, you don't put it into hot boiling water, you put it into cold water, and same thing, right? We didn't realize we just slowly evolved that way. So a lot of times when you go to clients, they try, but they fail because they don't really realize the different points that they need to go to, the key metrics within each one of those points. Talk about the three peaks of experimentation. You've got a political, operational, and democratization peaks. And you've got to go through each peak, and each peak has a different metric that you're trying to hit. And if you don't understand what peak you're in, you end up doing the wrong things, expecting a different outcome. And so a lot of clients don't know this stuff because they haven't done this over and over and over again to learn how to do it. And so they hire the agencies, and the agencies want to sell people. And so those two things just don't seem to work together. And so I've spent a long time thinking, how do you actually build a culture of experimentation? And I read this phenomenal book called Atomic Habits. And I realized something. What we did at agencies was or consultancies, we would sell you people. What we didn't do is formulate the habits that the organization needs to adopt a culture of experimentation. And so uh, I've become really passionate around what are the habits you need for experimentation? What are the things that you need to adopt to create a habit of experimentation? And that's what experimentation is. We talk about culture. Culture is a series of events and activities that you do ritualistically over time and have a shared belief system between a group of people. And that's a culture. And so those things are fundamentally grounded into what are the habits and beliefs that you have that cause that culture to occur. Agencies traditionally don't do this type of work. They do productionization of stuff. They do the work. And so there is no one out there who can actually help clients adopt a culture of experimentation, truly adopt a culture of experimentation, because it doesn't benefit them if they're an agency. And so, and the clients don't really know what to do because a lot of them are self-learning. And so it's a real dichotomy around how do you embed a culture of experimentation? And a lot of it comes out of habit formation. And I think the people who are really enabled to do stuff like this are organizations who focus on change programs or who have a human capital capability, who understand how you change a group of people. But a lot of those people right now don't understand experimentation. So those two worlds need to come together for that to occur. But the challenge that we face is that, I think experimentation with Optimizely being bought out, I think that the category is at risk of becoming a cottage industry because the people who talk about experimentation are practitioners like us. We just talk around each other. And because we tell the algorithm on LinkedIn what we like, our LinkedIn's look like experimentation, but I'm not sure the wider business community really understands what the hell we're talking about. And we all think it's important because we all see each other's feeds. Like I see Shiva's feed, I see your feed, I see Romel's feed. Like I've got all these people who I, admire and respect and love their opinions. And like, I mean, Shiva is awesome. The guy puts up so many funny memes that I'm like, I just love this guy. He brings humor to the category, right? But fundamentally, we're all talking to each other. There's no one growing
Yeah.
the category. There's no technologies investing in growing the category. And so the idea of a culture of experimentation, I'm slowly starting to figure out how we can do it, but I don't think there's anyone building the category and educating the C-suite to allow for this to start to occur. And we're at risk of becoming a cottage industry where we all just talk to each other and think we're all really important. I'm
Yeah.
included in that group that I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, this is where, where what I noticed when I was working in different marketing departments was you'd have it's always a simple sort of high school analogy. You've got the jocks and you've got like the nerdy
Yeah, right.
kids.
We don't have that here,
And I always
right? But
felt
yeah,
like we don't have that. Like the experimenters always feel like the nerdy kids are pulling up their like statistical
yeah,
significance
playing
and their
Dungeons
p
and Dragons
values
in
and
the off
stuff.
time. Yeah,
Yeah. Versus where those executive decisions are made, where those powerful decisions are made by people who can pitch, who can talk, who can can really make things simple and not get lost down into that massive data hole that a lot of
yeah,
experimenters
and
go down.
also the silver bullet.
And
Everyone thinks people who bring on experimentation usually think it's the silver bullet. Like, oh, we'll do a test and we'll get $1 billion. Doesn't really happen that way. You lose more tests than you win, but you learn. And I think
yeah.
that's really important. You learn more. But without a technology partner, what Salesforce and Adobe does to the market is it mass funds um, focus around subject matters which technically they are investing into R&D and build. You know, they are R&Ding and building into personalization. There are like the number of technologies that talk about artificial intelligence. All of a sudden, the C-suite are all like, "How do we get artificial intelligence into our business?" Because Salesforce has a huge sales team, huge marketing budget. Same with Adobe, and they flood the market with this conversation. And then see it, and like they're not illogical, difficult concepts to absorb. Like a CEO will like, yeah, how do I find efficiencies through artificial intelligence? How can I reduce my workforce, or how can I find more profit? And so that's their job. COOs, CROs, CEOs, that's their job. But without someone funding the market and pushing it forward, you're never going to grow. And the current technologies in this space, they're all fighting against each other to win small contracts, and no one's really investing in building the category. Like we don't have an association for experimentation and growth specialist who then
Mm,
takes the voice of this conglomerate to technology companies, to industry. And so at the risk of I'm kind of incriminating myself, but at the risk of it being a passion project, this thing is very close to becoming a cottage industry.
mm. And in terms of car, one thing that's kind of bounced around my head right now is it a question of the personalities in the space? Or in the sense that are they is something, the kind of person who would be doing experimentation? Are they the kind of person who would just end up in a cottage industry to begin with, no
I
matter
don't think
what
so. I
that
think
field
you're
is?
talking about. I come from a UX background. You come from a marketing background. Um, Sorry, I'm paraphrasing. If I got that wrong, let me know. Everyone comes at it from different angles. People come from a data angle. People I do agree we're all nerds, but anyone in the digital category is a nerd. Like in my point of view, you got to be a nerd to be interested in the evolution of technology, and you just got to have that kind of inquisitiveness, or and they're complex stuff. So you got to kind of be able to break things down to understand it in your own context. So I don't necessarily think it's the people. I just don't think that the conversation has been delivered in a consistent manner, using marketing. Yeah, at the end of the day, advertising and marketing drives awareness. If I want, remember the early days of Optimizely, they were everywhere, like literally everywhere. I used to go to Opticon and it was huge. It wasn't close to what Adobe was, but there's nothing similar. And the events around the world, you got Conversions Craft doing the Growth Summit, you got CXL in Austin, you got all these really fantastic, but there's no technologies. And I've noticed that our category grows by a technology. If a technology funds something, the conversations elevate, people start talking about it, and then the service providers follow through to deliver services against it. Without a technology leading the conversation, this the category has no leadership. It doesn't have a beacon to follow and the service providers to follow through. And so what ends up happening is someone in the organization gets interested and gets a little bit of budget to trial it to see if it works, and then they like it, and then they make a business case to bring it in-house, right? Which means hiring people. And
Mm.
then, as we all know, they all get stifled because they can't get enough engineering away from BAU work into experimentation. And those people who take it up, they're usually, like you said, they're a marketing manager, ecom manager, data and analytics optimization specialist. and they don't have enough seniority, and they've got to ask someone else for budget. And that other person, because they don't understand what's going on and they've got no one in their ear educating them, they end up going, well, how we've lost 10, we only won 1 out of 10. Well, that sounds like a stupid, like
Yeah.
if I went to a casino and I bet 10 times and I only won once, like if I'm a rational human being, that's pretty bad odds. I'm not doing that again. Whereas if I don't know how much of the stuff I'm pushing out into the world, productionizing, is working, well, ignorance is bliss. Let's just keep doing that, because I put more stuff out. Something's working, right? We're growing. Something's working. Let's keep doing that. So that's the trouble. I think we need a technology. We need Optimizely, and I don't want to talk badly of the guys, but they're selling a much more holistic solution, and so they should. They're still leading. The experimentation conversation is in there, but Adobe doesn't talk about experimentation at all. It talks about personalization, and they've embedded their experimentation into their personalization package, right? You A/B test within a personalization experience, but they don't even talk about it. So if no one's talking about it, the technology side, and the category behaves in a similar pattern, which is tech talks about it, CEOs, C-suite listens to it, talks to their people, the people go out and find a technology to support it, and then the market grows, support and service provider. If that routine that is shows to be the pattern of the category, that pattern's not happening, how does this category grow? So I don't have the answer. Is it that we need a body? Is it? I don't know, but I do know that there's some incredibly intelligent people doing some incredibly great work. But without that rising up to the C-suite, I worry that it won't
Yeah.
grow anymore.
And and to your point, something I've noticed as well is, I mean, I think we spoke about this as well, is someone's telling me how they were telling their mom they worked as a CRO, and the mom kept thinking they worked as a chief revenue
Yeah,
officer. And what I'm trying to get to is that even in companies, you might be in a place that has an experimentation culture, but it's not like looking for like a digital marketer role. We could just Google that word and and a ton of jobs show
yeah.
up. It's still very niche. And so what I'm wondering is, well, you mentioned how there's sort of a tech element. The tech talks about it, CEOs kind of get into it. There's sort of an element of having technology behind it, but it seems for me as well, it's almost a human resources element to it as
There's and
well,
that's
because they don't have
it,
those roles.
it's not a singular discipline. It's a multiple. Like, I don't know any experimentation program that's run by one person. I mean, if it's a decent program, it's got a team of people. You need engineers, you need data people, you need designers, and that's if you're just doing front. If you're doing back end stuff, you need more engineers and so forth, right? So it's a team of people. And then if you think about it, and this is why most organizations don't land a culture of experimentation, because the KPIs that they give these people to what an experimentation program does, they're very at odds with each other. Most KPIs are based on success metrics rather than failure metrics. And experimentation is about a failure metric, because failure teaches you what to do. And so the way the organization is set up doesn't allow for it. I mean, like I said to you, we completely had to change our business. Like, we had to change the way we thought about team incentive programs and staff incentives and KPI metrics, and moving away from KPIs into more agile structures and moving into more quarterly based. Like, it was a complete change program. It's multi-dimensional. And so you can't just hire a guy or a girl and go, you are a CRO specialist, because they're not. They need a bunch of other people to fulfill on the work. And I actually don't think it's a person's job. I think it's part of everyone's job to be experimenting. I don't think it's one person might lead the process, but fundamentally everyone, before they make a decision, should go, well, let's go test that hypothesis, or let's take that qual research that we had out of talking to, I don't know, 100 people, and what's its impact if I put it at a quantum on my website or my app? What would be the financial impact on me? Because, yeah, 100 people said it, but it might only have like 2,000 people apply or respond to it out of a million. Is it really worth my engineering department's time to do that? And it might be, depending on the value, but I, I, I just don't think it's a person. I think it's a change. I honestly, the more time I spend around this, it's a cultural change program. It is a multiple faced cultural change program. If you're embedding
Amazing.
experimentation in a business, if you're looking to increase leads, then yeah, it's a conversion rate optimization program. You can probably get one person in the ecom team or the media team to drive that stuff. You can keep it very unilateral. just like SEO. SEO has copy, it has dev, it has a whole bunch of people. Yes, one person becomes the SEO specialist because they got to learn the Google algorithm, but experimentation doesn't work like that. It is a program of work that everyone should be doing.
So maybe Neva, as you're coming close to the end of the episode, one of the questions I had was, let's say someone is either working experimentation right now, they're thinking about it. Are they better off kind of working on their own agency, maybe working as a solopreneur, or are they better off me looking for those few places that understand experimentation, or is the situation maybe even more complex than that?
Um, I mean, it really depends. If you're out there going, what do I do with my career? If that's the question you're asking,
Yes.
um, look, I'm somewhat, you know, biased. I love this category. I love the subject. Like, I write about. I've stopped working. I've sold the agency. I've left the business, and I'm still interested in the subject. Hence why I'm on this podcast. I just love this category. I find it incredibly interesting. But for someone starting their career, I think you need to have multiple, until there's a technology investing in it, you really need to have a multifaceted career capabilities because experimentation is a tool within a suite. If you do want to get into this space, I would say agencies are the best place to hone your craft. And there are incredible leaders out there who can teach, hone your craft. But really, I think where you're going to see real impact is when you take it in-house, when you take it into a business and you're able to manage the politics and bring the business on a journey. I think that's where you'll see the power of what's possible. And if you ask me, the people who run experimentation programs are the change enablers. If you do this properly, your business quadruples. Like I know, we did it. We changed that. Yes, we're an agency, and yes, but we were able to, deliver multiple millions of dollars to our incremental revenue to our clients. We were able to save them money. We were able to tell them, hey, invest in developing this part of the product. Don't invest in that part. And statistically prove it. Like we were change agents across the business once we were given permission to have those conversations. And I think if someone can learn the practice at its depth, move beyond mastery into artistry and go client side, I really feel like they are change agents. They're not this niche I drive conversions. They are really thinking about how do I get people to, use an experiment to get data to make better decisions in their day-to-day practice. That's a real liberating and interesting place to be. But you need to learn your craft. And I feel agencies teach better than clients, but clients enable you to do some really big changes because you have carte blanche, whereas agency, you're always asking for permission to do it. Does that answer the question?
Amazing, Nima. Yeah,
Can I
yes, it
tell you
does.
something? I
Exactly. Thank
think
you for.
I'm either going to be the most hated practitioner in this category for calling it a cottage, or it will be celebrated and talked about, and some of the tech guys will come and say, we're going to invest in this category and build it up again. Because I think there's space for a tech player to reinvest, to do what,
Yeah.
pick up from the fantastic job that Optimizely did and continue that conversation.
Amazing, Nima. And so, before we wrap up, is there anything that you wanted to highlight or anything that you want to kind of focus on?
Oh, please don't hate me. Whoever's listened to this, focus on that. And then the second thing is, if any, out of the conversations we've had, one thing I love about this category, you can reach out to any practitioner and they will share. I 100% get. I can reach out to anyone and go, hey, I'd love to learn about this. Ben from Spira, I know he puts out so much great content about how he runs a program. I mean, the guy is phenomenal in sharing knowledge. Um, so I guess in that vein, if some of these topics are interesting to people and there are agencies trying to build out a practice, I would love if you could reach out to me. I'm happy to share everything we know about how to build proper programs so that the agencies, when they deliver to clients, they don't make basic mistakes and they start to deliver better work. Because I think if we can all do better quality work and clients get the results, the category will continue to grow. So I'm offering any agencies out there that want, and then any clients who are interested in adopting culture and they want to know what to do, I've got a ton of material and information that I can share. I'm keen to help people be better in this category and help the category grow because I feel like we're lacking leadership. We don't have any kind of beacons or people at the front saying we're going to help grow the category. And so I'm whatever I can do to contribute to that, more than happy to.
Amazing, Nima. And maybe with that as well, could you share, for example, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, what's the
I
best way
think
they can do that?
LinkedIn is the best way. You and I kind of hooked up through LinkedIn and talked. So look me up. So it's Nima Yassini, Yassini. So Nima Yassini. I don't know if you can do a caption on this incredible platform that you've created.
Sure.
So happy to share.
That's
Rommel's got
promising.
my details. Clearly, you've got my details. Anywhere that, whatever I can do to contribute to help people do better work, deliver better results, and continue to grow this category, that's what I'm interested in.
Amazing, Nima. Thank you so much for being a
Oh,
guest
well,
today.
man, thanks for having me on the platform. Thanks for doing it late at night and also early in the morning for me. See, passionate people.
Okay.
This is Romo Santiago from Experiment Nation. Every week we share interviews with and conference sessions by our favorite conversion rate optimizers from around the world. So if you like this video, smash that like button and consider subscribing. It helps us a bunch.